And so the first question is always going to be like, is this person an idiot? And so we like to provide a little context at the beginning. So can you share like the path that led you to Slim Chickens?
Yeah, well, I mean, the path really starts in a Papa John's in South Bend, Indiana, when I was slapping pizza to make beer money in college. And, the typical kind of path, like I got out and said, I have a marketing degree. What am I going to do with this? I remember sitting in interviews with companies that made industrial battery waterers and some other stuff that in hindsight, I'm like, wow, I'm glad I didn't get that job because maybe that's the field I would have gone into. Fast forward to my first job was with Domino's Pizza, doing marketing out of school. And years later, when I talked to my boss and kind of went like, "Why did you pick me? You must have had hundreds of applications." She said, "Oh, because I saw Papa John's on your resume." I'm like, "Well, I don't know how slapping pies translates to being a marketing specialist, but now I do know the answer to that because there's
Right.
restaurant people, right? Like, ultimately, what I discovered is I've got the hospitality gene. I love working in restaurants. I love being in this field, and that's kind of the key to success. You know, between then and fast forward 25 years, I actually was going to look at what was pretty close with another brand I really admire that's based out of Dallas, and uh, got to the point where the offer came, and I said, you know what, we don't want to move to Dallas. And I remember saying to my wife, everyone we know is moving to Texas, the Carolinas. We should go somewhere that's still cool, but not everyone's going there, like Oklahoma or in Arkansas. I just kind of threw that out there. Having never been to either of those states, and a week and a half later, a recruiter calls, says, "Would you move to Arkansas?" I was like, "Oh, that can't be a coincidence. Let's try that."
Mm-hmm.
I had known Slim Chickens just from traveling, and so I was hooked on the brand from the first time I talked to Tom Gordon, co-founder and CEO, and here I sit as a resident of Arkansas.
Now let's talk about marketing. So I think we're close in age, and that being the case, like I graduated in marketing, right? Probably from the bottom of my class from Louisiana State University. But the timing was really significant because I graduated in marketing at the bottom of my class right before the internet became a thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and so marketing as it was defined, like through my 4-year university studies, studies in air quotes versus like how marketing is defined today. I think it is very similar and very different. So I would ask you, what was your approach to marketing as a recent grad? And how has that perspective evolved over time?
Gosh, well, I mean, my approach to marketing as a recent grad was I was the guy who was printing out the phone scripts for the Domino's Pizza customer service reps and literally putting them in the mail to the restaurants so that when they answered the phone and said, "Thanks for calling Domino's Pizza. This is Pat. Would you like to hear about our specials?" They had the right specials on there, proofing yellow pages ads and doing things like that. So, as I started to move up in the ranks in Domino's, life was just so much simpler. Essentially, your buy was how many TRPs of broadcast can you afford? Maybe you want to get crazy and mix some cable in there, and then we'll just fill the rest in with print and hit FSIs and direct mail and all that. I mean, the way it's become fragmented now, it's obviously a completely different game. And I think people who aren't intellectually curious and aren't in it kind of for the love of the hospitality game can't be successful now. You can't fake your way through this because there's so much to learn and it's so much effort just to stay on the cutting edge of how things are evolving. That if you're not driven by that kind of pure motivation, you're not going to be able to do it.
And so, when we look at like the Mad Men esque marketing, right? It's marketing and advertising, I think for a long time were like the same thing, right? And
Right,
now I
right.
would
That's right.
argue they're different things.
Sure.
So how would you define marketing today? And then how does it relate to advertising? Which again, there's overlap, but I don't think they're the same thing.
Well, it's an interesting question for us because we've had the revelation over the last year or so that we're not really in the advertising business, we're in the content business. And there's an important distinction there. I mean, we can create ads all day and be somewhat successful at that. But a brand our size, 300 units, you know, huge penetration in the US, UK, starting a global footprint. We're competing against McDonald's and, Wingstop with 3,000 units. We're not going to be the brand that runs more ads. We got to be the brand with the better content. And what we found is we kind of built this whole performance marketing machine. I can get into the details of that if you're interested. And that really gives us attribution. We actually know what every single piece of content is doing in terms of driving traffic. And the stuff that doesn't look and feel and present like an ad works so much better. So, the advertising piece of it has really become pretty diminished for us. Now it's about connecting people to the brand in a way. Like people always talk about authentic. I think that word's become a bit trite, but it's like there's complexity in what all these different guest types want. Can you actually deliver the content? And it is a you have to change your whole. Literally, we changed the entire team. We changed what this office is. We built an R&D center. We're building a content studio. This is a storytelling engine. This building that I'm sitting in. It's not like an advertising office.
And so I want to talk about content because I think that when most independents hear content, they think about social media posts, they
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about emails, they think about SMS messages, and that's not wrong. But I think that most of us think of it in isolation, right? They think in terms of content, not in terms of campaigns. One of the things that I believe, is someone that deals with marketing is that with every social media post, especially as an independent, right? Every social media post, every email has to have a profit and loss attached to it because you don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of bandwidth. And spaghetti on the wall can be a thing when you have infinite time and infinite budget. But like if
That's
you're going
right.
to send out an email, there should be an expectation that you're going to make X amount of dollars off this email. And if not, why would you send it?
Particularly, I mean, we're in such a deal-driven environment right now that a lot of restaurants are just bombing the market with discounts. And so I would say, particularly if there's a discount attached to that, you better darn well know what return you're going to get on that because it's one of these things where that becomes accretive and you can almost not realize how it's impacting your bottom line until you look at your numbers one quarter and go, why don't I have more money in the bank? It's because your discounts went from 3% to 12%, you know?
Well, and let's talk about that. So, I think that discounts are like a lazy man's way to market.
Yes, they are.
Um, because I think that discounts aren't an extension of self. It's trying to serve, I guess, someone that's not you. I look at Shake Shack, and we go to Shake Shack. I don't know, like once every couple of months. I worry that when I talk about how many burgers I eat, that the people listening that listen with consistency are going to be worried about me and my health. So I'm like, oh, and then we go to In and Out at least once a week, and blah blah
That's right.
blah.
It's like this guy's
Um,
cholesterol. Jeez.
right? Um, but we were at Shake Shack. I guess it was a couple of months ago, and they were running a promo where like you could put a discount code into the kiosk and get a free chicken sandwich on Sundays. And I was like, oh my god, that's so interesting. And my wife was like, do you want to do that? And I was like, I never want to fucking do that. Like I'm gonna eat what I want whenever I want to eat it.
Right.
Right? Like Shake Shack, you're not gonna convince me to come in when I don't want to come in to get a free sandwich. I'm not motivated by that. And I don't think Danny Meyer is motivated by a free sandwich either. I don't think that it influences how Danny Meyer chooses to eat. What I think is that Danny and the marketing team think that that's how other people think. And I think
Exactly.
that that's where shitty discount driven marketing comes from. Does it not?
It does, and you know where you see that is when brands don't have attribution, when they're flying blind on every other piece of content, they go back to the discount well because it's like, well, I mean, we can at least get a read on it, even if it's not the read that we like, and that's particularly true in franchise-driven brands, not just company-owned brands, because you have a franchise base who is going to rightly scrutinize how your promotional activities impacting their bottom line. So one of the things we've changed in building this performance marketing engine is we actually know how we're driving online and offline traffic with each piece of content that pulls us out of the discount game. At the same time we stood up the performance marketing engine, we put a ton of time and money into brand positioning work, which is another thing a lot of brands don't take the time to do. Like, I know you understand who you are. Do your guests understand? And most importantly, do you understand who your guests want you to be 2 years and 5 years and 10 years from now? Like, if you're building content with that North Star there, you're going to do well. You build the attribution in, you can see the return you're getting. If you don't, you're going to fall back to discounting because it's like, well, at least we can see what happens when we put this discount out
Let's talk about that because what you're talking about is brand positioning,
there. Hmm.
which is marketing speak. But I would argue that when we talk about like the problems that a lot of restaurants have, even big chains have, as it relates to marketing, more often than not, it's not even a content or campaign issue. It's a positioning issue.
Hmm.
The equivalent that I would give you is that I don't think that people debate between going to McDonald's or In and Out.
Yeah,
right?
exactly right. Exactly right.
Right? Because they both sell burgers and fries, right? But like In and Out is not McDonald's. It's at the same price point. I think maybe even a cheaper price point. But it has a different brand ethos. Like people are going to In and Out to eat In and Out. People are going to McDonald's to eat a cheap burger. And so the two can't be conflated because I think that if you told someone you eat at In and Out once a week, there probably wouldn't be shame attached to that. They'd be like,
That's right.
oh, that's a reasonable choice. But if you told people you eat at McDonald's all the time, they'd be like, you're going to die. I wish you luck. And that's a positioning thing because they both sell burgers.
Yeah, that's it. I think the overall trend here is that digital media has kind of democratized how ads are delivered. And it used to be back in the day, only the big players could afford to be on the airwaves and be dropping print. And so the competitive set was super small. Now it's literally like 5,000x the number of players. So the brands that are going to win in this environment are the ones that are unmistakable and easy to identify, right? It's like if you're In and Out versus McDonald's, like these people are scrolling so quick, they're itchy, their trigger fingers are so itchy that if that ad doesn't land in like 6/10 of a second, then they've already moved on, right? And so that's where you see brands losing out because they're not instantly identifiable, so people just never even engage with the content.
Well, and there's also, there's a knockdown drag out, especially I think in the fast food space, around around utility, right? Like how does this brand fit into my life? How do we use this brand? And so what ends up happening is an entire segment of the industry, and you see it in all tiers, right? That it becomes commoditized. Like I don't think that if Slim Chicken scales to 3,000 or 5,000 units, that it's because you sell chicken.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
Churches sells
exactly right.
chicken,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Kane
We're not
sells
creating a
chicken.
chicken restaurant. We're creating an experience here, and that's the other interesting thing about digital media, particularly social media, is for the first time in human history, it's not just about how you're enjoying a brand. It's about other people watching you enjoy the brand and kind of the cultural currency you get from posting your own content of "Look, here I am at Slim Chickens and the reaction that that gets from people. That's very different from how things were 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, really. And so a lot of brands, that they're not intentional about what they are and what they're delivering in that space, you just don't know what content to deliver. So you go, how about a 9.99 coupon?
Right, because it's always the equivalent that I like to use as an illustration is I don't think that people sign up to go to a gym to get access to gym equipment. I think that
Yeah,
people
that's a
sign
great
right.
example. Right.
It's right. You look at all
Just to
the
see a
signs all over
VC.
the gym, and
Yeah.
it's not like 27 treadmills available 18 hours a day. Right? It's like somebody with chiseled abs drinking a protein shake. Everybody's trying to sell the thing in our industry as opposed to selling the benefit of the thing.
Yeah, the
And
sizzle, not
so
the steak, right?
exactly. And so for Slim Chickens, what is that? What is the benefit of the thing if not chicken?
Here's what we found. So we went and we did a lot of research, and this just happened over the last few months. The good news for Slims is we didn't need to re-engineer anything. I've been at brands where we did these brand studies and went, holy cow, maybe we thought of ourselves as a value brand. We're getting zero credit for that. Now we need to re-engineer that huge facet of our brand. We landed right where we thought we would with Slims. And what we really found was people like choice. But what that's rooted in is the idea of freedom. They look at Slims, and sure, like the greens fees are handmade tenders. We brine it the day before, we buttermilk it, we hand bread it, we cook it to order. There's no one else doing it as well as we are, but there are other people doing something similar. The variety on the menu that we have with tenders and bites and wings and sandwiches and apples and salads and wraps and 14 different sauces and 3 different ways to prepare it and all these different sides, that gives people the freedom to set things up the way that they want. And so it was really interesting. We did all this quantitative data, and then we got into the quals, like all this qualitative. What people really got to was, I don't know, just like this sense of freedom, right? And so now we know, kind of, that gives us a clue on where we're pointing our content, right? A lot of it is not just around value, but like what evokes that sensation. You're basically trying to make people have the emotional response that they're going to have in dining with you before they even set foot in the door, through the door, or go through the drive-through. And that's the magic of content and how brand positioning helps you do it.
Well, can we unpack that? I have so many questions
Okay,
about that.
sure.
So let's talk about decision fatigue, right? I don't think that people want everything. I think they just want what they want, right? And it's our job to make it
Right.
easy for them to figure out what that thing is. So when you
Exactly.
talk about optionality, like I tense up a little bit, right? Because there's so
Yeah.
many options, but I don't know if people want options. And so, as a marketer, it's difficult, right? It's that whole Henry Ford thing, right? If I made what people wanted me to make, I would have built a faster horse. People people don't know what they
That's
want,
great. Yeah.
right?
That's right.
And I think that it's, because of all of those egoic Freudian barriers, I think it's really hard to look internally and see what is actually motivating us to make the buying decisions that we're making.
It's
And so
funny because I heard you say in an earlier podcast you were talking about I never give my clients what they want because if they knew what they wanted, they wouldn't need me, right? And in
for
some
sure.
sense, that's how it is with our guests and our cashiers too. It's like their job is to be a guide, so that when that guest walks through and looks at the menu, at that moment, choice isn't a good thing. You're right. They look up and they're like, "Oh man, I've never been here before. What are we doing?" Right? And so, how do you just get them into like, look, get the tenders, get the house made ranch or the slim sauce. You're gonna love it. We actually one of the outputs of this whole brand positioning thing was a new tagline and a campaign. And this was such an interesting kind of marketing exercise because at first it was like, maybe we don't need a tagline. Lots of brands are very successful without a just do it, and we're branching out globally. Like, how do you translate it across all these different markets? But ultimately, we got to a place where it was like, we can find a tagline that talks about the quality of the chicken, that talks about choice in a positive way, that leans on the tenders and the sauces as kind of the core of the brand equity. Also, just the southern heart of the brand, and in a way that just feels natural and kind of becomes part of the vernacular. So where we landed was we had this new tagline, like literally just rolling out to the restaurants right now. That is, what you picking. And so what you
I like
picking does
that.
is it gives people these guardrails to go like, look, there's going to be a choice here, right? But at the end of the day, we're selling chicken, so there's no wrong choices here. And a lot of this is around how the team members interact with the guests in the restaurant and in the drive-through, which is half of our business, and how the menu directs people. Like, that's your new user roadmap. That's the most important piece of marketing we ever have. What you want to do is visually get people to like, okay, if you're feeling this moment of panic, it's right here. Pick this tender, pick this sauce. We really like these house made ones. But the rest of it is there for the people who don't have that moment of panic and don't have decision fatigue and are like, well, let me explore it.
And so then is it about the entry products, right? That when somebody comes in and they're
Yeah.
new, which I don't know what your data looks like, but for most restaurants, 70-80% of the people in a restaurant at any given time are first timers.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
right, are they're tried and true. Like if you've never been in before, this is what I would recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're getting the classic meal with ranch or maybe slim sauce. I mean, 99 times out of 100, that's where people will go. And so uh, we've built a brand on that. Like the core of this brand really started in a garage in 2003 when Tom Gordon and Greg Smart were like, you know what? Nobody's doing this the right way. Like, there's chicken tender restaurants out there, but no one has cracked the code on how do you have the best quality tenderloin, a handmade product, and cook it to order, and be able to deliver it so you can deliver it quickly so you can have a drive through. That kind of evolved into, yeah, it was the best chicken around, and people really started to love the slim sauce, and they started to love this house made ranch and cayenne ranch, and then that sauce set kind of grew. But this thing's always stayed focused on the core, so it's like it is very obvious when you're coming in for the first time. If you don't know where to go, get the classic meal with the ranch and the slims.
And so here's what I love when I go to a restaurant. A couple of different things. Number one, like I feel like when I go into my clients' restaurants, like the question I'm always trying to answer is like, what should I get? And it should be obvious. What should I get if I've never been
Yeah,
in before? What are you
certainly.
known for? What is the thing, right? Burger King is home of the Whopper, and they've been able to scale because of that in particular. And then the next thing is like, how do I engage with you in a way to optimize the experience? So like I know what I'm going to get, but I also don't know what to do. I don't know how you fit into my life. Like, is this a quick, casual lunch? I feel like everybody's trying to make a logical argument, right, for why you should patronize their restaurant when like no one's going to Slim Chickens because they're trying to make great life choices, right? No one's like, right? No one's like,
So
I'm really worried about my fitness, right? I'm on this deep, intentional fitness journey. Fried chicken sounds like a great choice.
yeah,
So,
that's
like,
it.
right? So, the way you fit into their lives is it's indulgence, right? And it's indulgence at a really accessible price point. you
That's
know?
it. I think part of this watch the chicken theme leans into the idea that sure, I mean, you can come in and get a salad with grilled chicken on it, but that's not the core. That's not what built this brand, you know.
And
And so
am I wrong, but are you not fucked if somebody comes in for a first time and they get a salad, right? Is Slim Chicken's really going to become like your go-to salad spot?
it's like the classic veto vote, right? It's like
It
you just want to
is,
make
for
sure
sure it
there's not
is.
somebody that's like, oh, we can't go there because they have nothing I can eat, right? I mean,
Right.
like most brands, we don't put anything on the menu we're not proud of, but I'm certainly not for a first timer going and get the salads. Like, get the tenders. We've been making
Right.
these for 23 years. They're absolutely the world's best, and we perfected it. Like, start there. That's the wheelhouse.
So how do you build that confidence in the team? Right? I believe that sales is service, and I believe that sales done well feels like service.
Yeah,
One of the things that I train people to do in my restaurant concepts is like you have to have an opinion, right? And your opinion is based off statistics. So it's not like this is what I like, Patrick, and you should get what I like, because what if I have a gutter palate? There's no shortage of those in the world. So what it needs to be is like when people come in, this is what we're known for. This is what you should get if you've never been in before. And it takes like courage, especially for like a kid to turn to an adult and be like, if you've never been in before, Patrick, and we don't know each other at all, this is
yeah,
what you should get. How
it
do you
totally
build
does.
that in so that it feels like it's authentic communication?
Well, I think the first thing is truly make sure the product's so damn good that people are genuinely proud of it. I mean, it is obvious to anybody who tries this for the first time. As an employee on their first day, we're like, damn, this is really good, right?
Yeah.
So I think that gives them the confidence to start with. But then, what we do is we basically take this whole brand positioning thing and we get this cross-functional group together, everybody in training and ops and finance and marketing, a bunch of franchisees, a lot of people from the field, and just go, let's get real, okay? We could take this idea of what you picking, and if we want everybody who walks through the door to hear "Welcome to Slim Chickens," what you picking, and then get guided to the core of the menu, changing the training manual is not going to do that, right?
For sure.
What is the mechanism by which you can go reach 7,000 team members and go, hey, here's what you should say, and there's
Not
digital ways to do
paperwork,
that.
Patrick.
So it
Not
turns out it's
paperwork.
not. If it were that easy, we'd have a lot smaller G&A
For
budget.
sure.
Here's what I have found over 25 years of doing this is what really makes that happen are the people that kind of create this chain from me sitting in the CMO's office going, hey, everybody should do this, to the cashier. And so that is our president and COO, that is our VP of ops, that's all their directors, it's all of the district operations people and the GMs. Like, what the secret to Slims is from Tom and Greg all the way down, these are people who do have that hospitality gene. And if you hire for that, the message translates really easily. If you don't, and you're just looking at it from a pure operator's perspective, and there's nobody who's worried about the guest experience, there's that like fire, to bring hospitality to the world, you're screwed. Because now you've hired, as that kind of trickles down, you got 7,000 people in your restaurants who are just there collecting paychecks. So there's no shortcut, there's no magic tool that does it. It's like you make that part of your culture, you hire people who believe it from the very top all the way to the cashiers who are very importantly interacting with the guests, and then you build the tools because they want to know what to do. It's just you got to tell them what to say, right?
Can we talk about this social media, this viral trend that I'm seeing right now of
Sure.
CEOs eating their own food?
It's
Um,
bizarre, isn't it?
oh my God. So like I'm gonna give you my 2 cents and then I want to get yours. Okay. So like when I am prescribing marketing to people, I always say like you've got to intimate the experience, right? Like there's this amazing book called The Science of Glamour that talks about how like glamour only exists if you're able to pull people into it. So everything has to be shot from the perspective of someone sitting at the table. It's fascinating. When you look
It's
at like
interesting.
Slim Aaron's photography and all this, it's a very heady book, not like a page turner, but it really informed how I see visuals around restaurant marketing. And so is an example, like a sandwich in a hand shot from the perspective of the diner is more effective than a sandwich on a table, right? Which feels, very medicinal. It feels very antiseptic. Um, and so the only rule that I have is I'm like, you want to intimate dining and eating and experience. But the only rule I have, Patrick, is no mouths. because mouths are disgusting. I don't want to watch you eat. I don't want
It's
to
funny.
hear you eat. It's a thing. It just grosses me out. It just pulls me out of whatever that is. And then you look over the last week, and now I've got to watch like the CEO of McDonald's, right, nibble on a big arch, or the CEO of Burger King, like wolfing down a Whopper like he hasn't eaten in a month. The guy, CEO of Wendy's, is like cooking a burger, right? Like that happens in real life. And
Right.
then he eats the whole thing. It's like, man, this is great. Like it's just a Wednesday at the office. Um, where do you fall on that? Is that great marketing, right? Are they writing trends? Or is this just performative and the net of it is going to be nothing?
Well, I mean, the viral spark there was just the sheer bizarreness of
Oh my
that
God.
small little bite that Chris took
Oh,
out of that thing, like he was being forced to do it at gunpoint. And so, yeah, I'm with you in the mouth thing. In fact, we spend a lot of time thinking about what did we do that didn't work, and I would love to say we're just over here hitting dingers all day long.
yeah.
Our ethos is more like if you're going to fail, fail fast, like most people say, and we want to make sure our team knows they have permission to fail. We actually did a campaign in the beginning of my tenure here where we were trying to do something different visually. And one of the visual cues was these mouths, like these halftone mouths that were kind of zooming in and like getting ready to kind of like look like bite the food. And we knew we were like right on the edge right there. In hindsight, we kind of looked back and went, we probably were maybe just on the other side of where we should have been that line right there. So that kind of that put me firmly in your camp of no, Mouse, you're right. It's like
No
it,
mouths.
it comes back to what I said before about like people want to be able to feel that emotional connection with the brand. They want the emotional sensation they're going to experience in having your food in viewing the content. And so a lot of times we found we can do that only tangentially involving the food. Like one of the best pieces of content we did in the last several months was we went out to LA and we threw a house party and there were slim chickens there and we filmed it. And so we rolled out the spicy tenders. It was a huge hit for us, and we knew we'd be looking at a younger demo for spicy in general. So we didn't want to do an ad, right? This is in the beginning of the let's be in the content, not the ad business stage. And that's some of the best and most successful content that we filmed. We put that in that performance marketing. It was like, wow, look how that's performing. And I think that's why, because this is like one of the best pieces of feedback I've ever gotten in my career. The very first day we posted that, there was a comment from one of those pieces of content on Instagram where a guest said, "This is exactly what it feels like to to eat at Slim Chickens." And I was like,
That's
"Yes,
amazing.
that's how we knew we got it." You know what I mean? That's like hanging on the wall now because
We've got
that's what you're trying to
important
do.
work to we've got important work to do in this conversation, Patrick. But before we move forward, I want to give you my idea on how we get your CEO directly involved in this trend.
I'm all
So
yours.
this is what I want. And I want you to be in the video as well. It's you and the CEO, right? And there's a huge cutout of the logo with a space for his face. And he sticks his face in the cutout. And then it is you with the little Tinder bites, the little bites of chicken, dipping it in the ranch sauce. He's got his mouth open and you're just firing them in his
That's
face,
gold. That's
trying to
gold.
get them in. I want it so bad. Even if it's just an internal video, shoot it and send it to me. I think it's marketing gold.
Make sure you send me your consulting invoice after this.
You
And
got
that's
it.
funny. We
You got
actually
it.
had something not dissimilar happen just a couple weeks ago. We were working with these creators, Austin and Colin, who did awesome content for us. This is part of that What You Pick and Roll Out. And one of the folks in our team went down to our Nashville stores, and these guys were like dancing on the tables, had all these crazy spreads on the tables. And one of the things I wanted to do where they were like, okay, take these pickles and throw them at my face. And it's one of the funniest parts of that reel. And so we had a team member who came back and just like, yeah, I never thought my job would be to just like wing pickles at somebody, but it worked perfectly. So
I
we
love
have
it.
experience in that realm. I think we can deliver that for you.
And let's talk about why that works. And then I want to get into customer frequency and loyalty as well.
Sure.
People aren't on social media to buy chicken. They're
Turns out
on
that's
social
true.
media to be entertained. Social media is this inherently low intent platform. And yet, like, we sell food on social media like like you could sell socks. And it just doesn't work that way because the timing doesn't work in our favor. When's a good time to buy socks? Like whenever. Like it's a mindless purchase. It's a low price point. But like to sell food in real time, you've got to be hungry and inclined to leave the house or wherever you are, right? So it's like it's really hard to catch it. So, what is the goal of social media? Obviously, it's attention, and you're looking at attribution. What is your goal as it relates to social?
That's exactly it. I mean, we're part of the attention economy. We just want to get our fair space in the mind share game. So, essentially, I mentioned we've invested super heavily in performance marketing. When most people hear that, they think bottom of the funnel, and a lot of it is like we'll look at what is your CPA and kind of the standard metrics for that. What we have found is in a footprint like ours, we have a really disparate level of brand awareness. Like we've been doing business in Northwest Arkansas here in Fayetteville for 23 years. There is not you literally cannot find someone who doesn't know what Slim Chickens is. Go to a market we just opened across the country that has 2 restaurants and it's super low. So, what we found is we're really good at gaining attention. Like it's not difficult to build content that is entertaining that people engage with, but can you make it a brand impression in a way that makes somebody not swipe to the next thing? That's the key. And so the data definitely drives it, but a huge part of it is the data just guiding your intuition too. Like we know what it's like to be entertained. We there's a lot of people on this floor here younger than me that are more in the core of our demo. Like, there's no mystery in what entertains people, but it's about getting that brand impression in there too in a way that's subtle enough that people are still entertained, but you have that little bit of brand education in there too, and that's the art. We've got content strategists here in house who do just that, and this is you really can't think of it like a job. It is like a craft, right? These people are like artists creating this content. And what we found is successful too is just getting people outside of this organization to create it too, whether they're, you know, content creators that have millions of followers or just cool people who are really clever and creative and love the brand and are building a following. I mean, we've got thousands and thousands of diehard super fans out there who are just dying to create content for us, right? And that's how you win in the social.
How do you iterate? It's, your organization is of a size now where it could potentially move like a battleship. Marketing is an iterative process, but what I have seen, especially in the larger organizations that I've consulted for, is that we're going to launch the campaign, we're going to let the campaign run 4 months, we're going to talk about the data, and then we're going to sit down and we're going to spend months interpreting the data to ultimately potentially do something different down the road. But like
Yeah.
money likes speed. And I mean, you could see it in a single unit independent as well. Is that the bias is towards observation, the bias isn't towards action. But in
Yeah.
marketing is an iterative process. Even when it works, it could potentially work better with a couple of quick adjustments. So like
Yes.
running this big organization, like how do you stay lean and iterative and move quickly? When I would assume that across the entire organization, the propensity is to move slowly and methodically, right?
Most people are not inherently moved to action. I would agree. So a lot of that's in the hiring. And one of the things that I noticed as I came onto Slims was there's a massive opportunity on the client side because the traditional agency model is failing. And a lot of very sharp minds and very driven people are looking at their agency career 5 years out and going, I don't really like where that trajectory is going. So, we've had a number of team members that have been here several years or more who are doing a killer job for us. We brought on some talent, a few key people in particular who were agency driven, and of that mindset of like you have to continually iterate because the client's about to ask for the next thing and you need to be able to deliver it already, right? It should be done. So, one of the dangers of moving into performance marketing like we have is you need a huge amount of content.
For
It's just
sure.
like you described back in the day, and here back in the day was a year ago. We would do 6 campaigns a year, and you'd put $300,000 into producing this one campaign and put it out there and go, here we go, right? And if sales are flat, you're like, well, crap, I hope the next one works better, right? So with performance marketing now, we can push out literally hundreds of messages. We actually just got access to a new competitive tool, and the insight we gained was there's only one brand in this space out there who's running more ads than us, and they are way, way bigger than we are. We literally have hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content out there. The problem is now your burn rate on the creative is super
Sure.
fast. Like your decay is like days, not weeks. So can you create enough content to feed into this machine, right? And we've seen some interesting examples. Like I mentioned that house party campaign that we did when we launched spicy tenders. That crushed it. But then you start to look at the demo and you're like, well, 35 through 54 is falling off though, because they're not engaging with this content. It's not inherently interesting. So we were able to go in and say, okay, right now, today, in real time, we're going to create some content that we think appeals to moms and dads with kids in the 35 to 54 demo. And we mocked something up, like the mock-up you could just do on AI. It's not real content yet. But we put that in the performance marketing engine and went, holy crap, look at the CPA on that thing. We got something here. So then you go out the next day and you're producing the high production value content, the real thing that you put in there. And now, in a matter of less than 48 hours, you've created a new campaign and put that out there. And when that one decays out in 6 days or 8 days, you've got the next one ready to put in there. So you're hitting moms and dads with kids. You're hitting 18 to 24 college students, even younger. You're hitting blue collar. I mean, all this stuff is out there, all working at the same time, and you're just refreshing the content so it continues to entertain that little bit of brand education on it. And that's how you win. It's the only way to approach it. But if you try to do it in a brand our size with an agency, your budget's not big enough. You're going to need
For
10%
sure.
of sales to do that. So
And so
a lot of
everybody
brands
listening, go ahead, you go.
no, after you, after you.
I was going to say, and so, for the folks listening that are either multi-lokes or they're single unit independents, it would seem like there's no parallel here. But what I would say is what you're talking about are the copious amounts of content that you have to create in order to offset or unseat your next closest competitor who is massive in scale. But as an independent, I just need to do better than everyone in my surrounding area.
And that's
And so,
exactly it. As an independent, you're dealing with one trade area. We're doing this for 300 and we're going to scale it up to 3,000. That's what we built. So you don't need your own content studio. You don't need all these performance marketing people out here. You just need to understand what your brand is and how you can deliver a message that's genuinely entertaining with a little bit of brand education.
that's it. It's not 400 pieces of content over the course of 30 days. It's 40 pieces of content over the course of 30 days because damn good and well. And I think this is the point that most people are just checking the content box. Did we
That's right.
post a photo of food today? Right.
Yes.
With a CTA to please for the love of God. Come in. We need the money.
That's
Right.
it.
And like that's what most restaurant marketing looks like. Nobody's telling interesting stories. Right.
And here, I
Everybody's
mentioned
doing
before, like this social media has democratized marketing, right? But it's not just because other brands now can have a platform. Google and Meta have spent over $100 billion building Andromeda and these other deep neural networks that aren't just about targeting now. They will build the creative for you. So
Sure.
even a single unit operator could take a couple of days and learn how to be pretty dangerous on those platforms. And now you're delivering content at scale just like McDonald's is.
Right. But no one else is doing it. It's the advantage that I think the strategic advantage, especially as it relates to marketing, is if you can do it well, doing it at scale isn't that difficult.
Right,
Right.
exactly right.
Which is so exciting to hear. If you were running an independent restaurant, let's say you become the CMO of a single unit independent restaurant, what are the top three things you're focused on coming into the role?
Brain clarity to start with, without a doubt. Having somebody whose job it is to do content, that could be a shift manager who's pulling double duty, that could be your cousin, that could be your neighbor who just wants a few free meals, and then having a way to measure it. So I think that's where most people, you start to lose your average restaurant entrepreneur because the measurement part isn't fun and sexy, but it's also not hard because, like I said, in a day or two, all the metrics are built into these platforms like on Google Meta. It's really not rocket science to learn how to use it. Very difficult to learn how to scale it out for 300 restaurants. You need a big team of people to do that. But you can create this iterative process where you understand how content's performing. That shows you what to build more of, and then it becomes really fun because the same way, like on your personal feed, you're like, oh, look how many likes I got on this. It's its own motivation when it's measured like that because you're like, man, can I get my CPA below 4? It just becomes kind of a game.
What is it? So engagement, right? So people think of engagement, they think in terms of likes, comments, shares, direct messages. Not all engagement is created equal. If there is a single metric that you look at from that list or any other list, how do you define engagement and the success of a particular post?
Hook rate is a big one for us. It's like how many people engage with it for 3 seconds. Because if you get them for three, you're probably going to get them for eight, and that's it. I mean, it is astounding on some content you think is going to do well how low the hook rate can be on some of it. Sometimes it's just like intuition can generally guide you, but you need the data to kind of to steer that a little bit, because I can't tell you how many times we have done like higher production campaigns where I either said, I think this is a mistake, guys. I'm going to let you run with it, but I don't think this one's going to do well. And it crushed it.
Yeah.
Or I thought, well, we knocked the cover off the ball on this one. You look at the hook and you're like, oh, turns out I'm not as clever as I thought.
Oh my
But
God.
I mean,
So many
really though,
times.
like for especially for somebody with one or two or three restaurants, the real measure of engagement is like, are people coming into your restaurant and are they talking about it? Because the best engagement you can actually get has nothing to do with media. It's marketing in your community. It's being a gathering spot. It's being a brand that people think of as part of their own identity. That actually, I mean, I actually was in field marketing for way longer in my career than most people are, because I love that part of it, like grassroots
Yeah.
marketing, actually being part of the community. I actually left the corporate world and went like after Domino's Pizza. I kind of went, I'm just not a corporate guy. This isn't what I want to do. I went and worked on an organic vegetable farm in South Central PA. And then when I came back to civilization back in the day, I saw an ad in the Washington Post for a community marketing role at a brand called Noodles and Company that no one had ever heard of at that point. And I thought, well, it's probably not really like community driven. It's probably just some BS this brand says. Went talked to one of their managers who told me all the stuff they were doing to build community in their trade area, and I was blown away. And I took that job, and it completely changed how I think about marketing, because we did no media. I mean, we're talking about like a smattering of digital media and some billboards in like three or four markets, and we grew that thing to 400 restaurants and a super successful IPO. So don't think you don't necessarily need to build your own performance marketing engine for one restaurant. You can be plenty successful just owning your community too.
What should we steal from you? No one listening is a professional marketer, right? Nor
Mhm.
does anyone really aspire to be. And I would assume that like your success in marketing has probably been driven by two or three ideologies, a couple of tactics, some tools, some strategies.
Mhm.
What could we steal from you, internalize and use to benefit our lives and our businesses?
Well, mine's not particularly unique. It's this. The people who are successful in this business are the ones that have fun. So whether you're kind of a support function in a huge brand like HR, marketing, or finance, or you're an entrepreneur who's driving their own thing, if you really enjoy what you're doing, that's going to translate to what the ethos of the brand is. And I think that's part of why we were able to grow this one. Tom Gordon and Greg Smart freaking love doing this. And that was evident to every single person who walked through the doors of our first restaurant right up the road here on College in 2003. And it never stopped. They hired people who had that same hospitality gene, that had a burning passion to do it. If you genuinely enjoy it, it's going to come through in every single thing you do, whether that's how you market or your menu items and the experience that you provide. And so I think what people lose sight of as they start to scale out, whether that's opening your second location or your 2000th location, is like, oh, well, we're all sitting here in an office. This is a business, so we should be business-like. Like, yeah, you can be professional and still genuinely enjoy every freaking minute of every day. And I do here. I think my team would say the same.